Let's get it, Max.
UFC 229 recap, discussion, breakdown, you name it. We are locked in. Dave the Wave and Max Van Auken joining.
Thank you so much for listening to us. We were entertained last Saturday night, UFC 229, and I hope you'll be entertained listening to us. This is just an open format. Discussion, what's next, what's going to happen, what happened, who's the champ, who's he going to fight next. Let's just sit down for an hour and 45 minutes and just talk about this, Max. You ready?
Yeah. Okay, in case you're living under a rock, Conor McGregor got mauled by Khabib and submitted, 4th round submission.
I practiced this all day. You ready? Nurmagomedov.
Pretty good.
Nurmagomedov.
Pretty good.
Thanks.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Found out it's Khabib not too long ago. Been calling him wrong the entire time. It's not Khabib, it's Khabib.
Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Anyway, he couldn't have had a more impressive performance. Didn't take any damage. Fought his fight. It was disappointing because we both thought Conor McGregor was going to win. And honestly, we could be fans. Even though we talk for a living, we could be fans. We were rooting for Conor McGregor because it leads to so many different avenues that could happen. It could be George St. Pierre. It could be a rematch.
Bigger and better avenues.
Yeah. And so it was disappointing to see, but hats off to Khabib. But it's so crazy. We're not. Nobody's talking about what happened. They're talking about what happened after the fight.
Okay, real quick. Can we talk about actually the fight?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. I thought about this on the way in. The fight almost went to what I thought, except for Conor didn't have the TKO, didn't have that one moment. Everything else, the first round was kind of close. I thought Conor was winning the stand-up, and then Khabib got him down. Didn't do a lot of damage. I felt like Conor got out of that round okay. It was a 10-9 Khabib round, but it didn't do a lot of damage. The second round is a bad round. That's a bad round for Conor, 10-8. If they would have stopped it on the ground and pound, I would have been okay. I would have been pissed. I've seen worse stoppages. So I was like, all right, that's round 2. Round 3, on all 3 judges' score sheets, and this has been out there now, Conor won that round. So I'm watching the fight. I'm like, that's it. The momentum has changed. And I felt like round 4 and round 5 of Al and Khabib, his last fight, I thought Khabib didn't get tired. I just thought he got lazy and kind of wasn't as aggressive as he was in the round 1, 2, and 3. So when Conor won round 3, I thought Conor was going to take the fight. I thought that was the switch. And then...
What's interesting, so I'm a nerd when it comes to this. I looked at every interview, every different professional opinion, perspective. And, so we get one. I heard Coach Kavanaugh, his head coach. I heard his perspective on it. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, the second best podcast in the world. And so he was on. And what it was so interesting is a couple things. One is he said if we got taken down, we focused on not spending too much energy getting up, just not to take damage. So kind of back to what you said in the first round, he didn't take too much damage. So they were like, even though we lost the round, that's a successful round to them mentally, because now going forward, Khabib may start to slow down. We didn't exhaust too much energy.
Agreed.
Expend too much energy. So that's kind of what you were saying. But another thing he said is if they were to fight again, which we'll get into if they do, is they were they planned too much on the defensive end. They didn't focus too much offensively, and he said it showed. And a lot of it could be ring rust as well, 2 years. But, yeah, they didn't focus too much on their offense. They focused on their defense. And it's really interesting because then you have Nick Diaz. Out of all people that can bash Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, Nick Diaz is Nate Diaz's older brother. He has every right to bash this guy because they have that rivalry going. Yep. The Diaz brothers with McGregor.
Yep.
He actually said he thinks Conor McGregor could have done better, but he said that's not as good as Conor McGregor is. He felt that wasn't, Conor McGregor wasn't at his best. And he even said that. And we noticed that. He didn't get the opportunities he normally would get. There were openings.
Absolutely. You said it. His coach said it, and I think that's unbelievable. I never thought that. That's like my light bulb came on. He looked hesitant. He looked like he was playing defense. He looked like he was on the way back. That's what happens when teams play the Golden State Warriors. Go after the Warriors. Attack them. When you're playing just defense and you're worried about shooting and getting back, follow through on your shot. If you make the shot, if you get your left right across and hit Khabib in the face, you will keep the momentum and you will win that spot, that transition.
I agree 100%, but this is, if we've learned anything from interviewing all these locked interviews with these MMA fighters, pretty much every fighter has said wrestling is the main ingredient when it comes to MMA because you can dictate where the fight goes.
Sure.
So, say there is a rematch, just in a hypothetical world, which we'll get into more. Stylistically, this is a terrible matchup because the more offensive-minded he is, the more available he is for the takedown.
Very true. Aaron Judge, I want him to swing as hard as he can to try to get a home run. If he strikes out, he strikes out.
Right.
I want Patrick Mahomes to throw 75 yards to Tyreek Hill to try to get a touchdown.
Right.
I want Conor to throw the left. I want him to kick. I want him to be aggressive. Like, if he gets taken down, round one wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. And I thought Conor won the first 30 to 50 seconds of that fight. Then Khabib did get him down. But after, just in anything in life, if you do that for 15 minutes, 18 minutes, I think Khabib will even kind of get tired of trying to get him down, being on top, wasting a lot of energy. So maybe round 4, maybe even pushing round 5, a championship round fight, Conor will get that straight left off, and Khabib won't try to wrestle him down.
I agree with you. And let's just stick with inside the octagon before we expound outside the octagon.
Holy shit, what happened outside the octagon?
A couple things. So Conor McGregor's stamina is a huge criticism of his fight game. Huge criticism. We've seen him fatigue multiple times. And what Coach Kavanaugh said was he was in great shape, but anybody that Khabib's gotten on top of gets exhausted. LaQuinta was just I don't even know. There's no words to say that. He was very rare. You don't see that. Any other opponent that Khabib's fought never had that issue besides LaQuinta. He was an anomaly. Like that, he didn't get tired.
Yeah.
So I understand, because it's a lot easier said than done. Hey, be in shape before the fight. You have Khabib on top of you for 3 rounds. I guarantee you're tired too. So I understand that. You don't want Khabib on top of you. But back to your point, you said Khabib wasn't exhausted, like he wasn't fatigued, but he definitely was slowing down.
Yeah.
You could tell noticeably he was slowing down.
Yeah, I thought he would in the later rounds. And also, real quick, what you just said about being in shape. For one, guys, it's been discussing lately, everything on social media. I want normal people, to get into an octagon. Get in a boxing ring. Come meet us at Pete White's gym and do a round with one of us. With Mike Davis, with Chris Mixon. Like, you have no idea. These guys are the best of the best, highest level fighters in the world, right? Doing their thing. Hey, and I challenge anyone to come in a big sales meeting with me and see what I do. You know what I mean? Like, what people have no idea how talented Conor McGregor is and how Khabib is. And just the last little thing on it about being tired. Not even about being tired in the octagon. Guys, he had smoke come out of the octagon. His emotions, his adrenaline, the crowd, the music came on, Biggie was on, the fans were going crazy. He knew this was the biggest moment of his MMA life, his legacy, his career. Of course, it will do something to you. He can run forever on a Tuesday, but Saturday night inside an octagon with mist coming off the goddamn octagon, it's unbelievable. I got tired just watching it.
Especially 2-year layoff.
Yes.
Dominic Cruz can say ring rust is not a thing, but I definitely think if you don't shoot hoops for 2 years, I guarantee when you get back in the gym, you don't shoot hoops the same. It takes a while to getting used to. There will be another interesting thing is we called it. We said, even though we were wrong with our locked-in prediction, Conor McGregor knocks him out, we didn't see it going like a war. We said Khabib mauls him or Conor knocks him out, and the exact thing happened. Khabib mauled him. Now, let's just skip to the future, say there's a rematch. Can the fight be any different?
Yes.
And do you believe Conor McGregor, because he demanded a rematch automatically, like he was already into it. He said, I'm not pressing charges. We'll get into that. I'm more focused and upset about the loss. You think that he would have a legitimate chance of beating Khabib in the rematch? I did it again. Khabib.
I don't know. I got to see, for one, I want to see how soon it is. One, I want to see how the press conferences go or just everything that leads up to it. I give the Houston Rockets a chance for the Warriors, the Celtics. I give Derrick Lewis a chance against DC. We'll get into that later. Any championship match or fight, I give them a chance. And then especially with Conor McGregor. I know everyone wants to shit on him right now. Right. He's one of the greatest fighters in the history of the game. Who he's beat. Eddie Alvarez, are you kidding me? Come on, guys. Jose Aldo, Dustin the Diamond. He's beat the who's who of the lightweight and, featherweight. So he's definitely has a chance. He has a puncher's chance. But I want to see what happens.
Can we get into what happened?
Yeah, let's do that. Because, I want to talk about what Conor can fight 9 guys.
Yeah. So it all what happens in the future all dictates on what happened after Khabib jumps out of the octagon. And
yes.
I was listening to some radio stations, and they're like, oh, he just jumped in the crowd. No, he didn't just jump into the crowd and start swinging on fans. Dill Dennis is Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach. and he's already an outspoken person too. And him and Khabib already had their feud. The whole camp, McGregor's camp and Khabib's camp, don't get along.
A little nugget for Danis. I didn't know this. He has the biggest contract in Bellator.
Didn't know it was the biggest contract. I knew he was a Bellator fighter.
Just dropping the knowledge for you guys.
There you go.
Yep. Okay.
So anyway, now Kavanaugh said he didn't hear Dennis actually talking any trash. He said he looked over and Dennis was waving him on like, come on. So, of course, Khabib wasn't playing around. He jumped right over the octagon and went right at him, feet first, and it became a huge brawl. And then,
fly like an eagle.
Literally. And then before you know it, Conor McGregor is getting jumped by Khabib's teammates. There's like 3 people that got suspended and went to jail, but Conor McGregor did not press charges against those people, so they're no longer in jail. But now they're bragging about it on social media.
I respect that about Conor, right?
Yeah. They said Dana White said he was more upset about the loss. He could care less about anything else.
Yeah. You ready for this one? This is just who I am inside. I like Conor McGregor more today than I did Saturday at 4 p.m. I do.
Didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, I like the up and downs, the roller coaster, everything. Everyone doesn't win 10 championships. Even Steph Curry's lost the finals his first 5 years. He almost got traded. That's life. That's what we go through. That's what normal people go through on the daily. And he had no excuses. Even inside the octagon, you can kind of see, hey, Khabib, you got me. You won. He didn't cry. He didn't go to the judges and complain. He didn't go to the ref. He didn't even attack Khabib after the fight. That could have been a little thing. I like Conor McGregor more today than I did.
I respect that. I do too. And what's interesting about this, okay, so there's a couple of things. There's a video that, Conor McGregor swung first. That did not initiate the whole brawl, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't see it, Khabib flew outside of the octagon. That's what initiated everything.
Yeah. I'm so happy you said that. Because one, Khabib did that. For one, he's attacking his teammates. Right. So for one, what does Conor do? The most loyal guy in the goddamn room. He always supports his teammates and backs his teammates. So now it's not even just Khabib. And it's 2 other of Khabib's teammates are starting to run and go after his teammates. So of course, the guy is jumping. He's in the octagon, goes on top to go after Conor's teammates. So what does Conor do? Yeah, he takes a swing. He goes after him. Yeah. I said, we were talking about it. I was talking with our buddy, Ryan, and he didn't like what Conor did there. And he was talking about it. I was like, Ryan, hey, buddy, if we're at Gabby's Pizza and we're eating pizza and some guys come in and start attacking you, I got your back. I'm swinging. I'm not even asking. You know what I mean? I have your back. And that's what I love about Conor. He had his teammates back once again. That's what started this whole thing in Brooklyn. He has their backs.
And then there's another weird footage that I saw, and it was he's like, let's talk. Khabib's on top of Conor. He's like, let's talk while he's hitting him, which is pretty intimidating. Yeah. Then afterwards, Conor's like, it's business. I'm like, that's just really, it shows you how vocal they are inside of the octagon. Yeah. It was real. And so who do you blame is the question. And guys, both are at fault. So Conor McGregor has said he criticized his religion, his family, his heritage, his training camp, the way he fights himself. So I get every reason why Khabib's upset. Every reason. I completely understand it. And then I get why Conor McGregor's upset at him because what he did to his teammate. So there's more than just fighting that is with this feud. So nobody's truly innocent. But what Khabib did, in my opinion, took away from his victory. You won. If you beat the guy inside the octagon, mano y mano, nobody else can interfere, no weapons, just like Conor said, I have no weapons. I come unarmed, and it's just one-on-one, and he won. He tapped him out. He mauled him. Yep. You have nothing left to prove. By him jumping out of that octagon, whether you say it's right or wrong, and I can understand why he's really emotional and upset, but you won the argument by doing that. Just let it be. You were classy this entire time. You are the bigger person by winning, but what I don't understand at all, and there's no excuse for, is Khabib's teammates jumping inside the octagon.
Sure. Absolutely. Nailed that one. You said who's to blame, and I've, so many talk shows and so many podcasts and so many, even Colin Cowherd's talking about it. All of them have to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
Khabib, Conor, Dana White, both of their teams. Dana's didn't have to, egg it on. The fight's over. Put your head down. Hey, your man took it in the chin. Just, take that. You should take it in the chin as well. You're there to support Conor, right? Dana White. The more and more I thought about it, he has to shut down a little bit of what Conor does, I think. At the press conferences, you could just tell, and that's just life, right? every employee doesn't get treated the same way. Some employees are more important than the next. LeBron is more important than KCP. That's just the honest guy's truth. When Conor's in the press conference, they're drinking, the proper together, the whiskey. He just needs to, I really feel, rein in Conor McGregor a little bit. Just a little bit. You want Conor to be Conor. He sells pay-per-views. He's funny. He's most of the time it's like positive, kind of like funny talk. But, I think Dana White can say, hey, Conor, don't make fun of the guy's religion, or don't go after him. Or, hey, no, the first press conference didn't go great, right? I thought Conor, went after him. They didn't need another press conference. And then Dana White should say this to Conor, be on time. Like, that was a whole thing, and I actually liked how Khabib's like, I'm here, I'm doing the press conference, I left, I did my 15 minutes. He should rein him in and say, Conor, this is the biggest fight of the UFC's promotion. 229 pay-per-views. Not talking about all of the countless fight nights, all the countless Ultimate Fighters. Every show, this is it. The biggest fight in their organization. And their man was late for 25 minutes for a press conference. He needs to rein Conor McGregor in a little bit.
So there's so many hypotheticals and like moral questions that I want to get into, but the cold hard facts is Khabib hasn't gotten paid yet. Conor McGregor has. The Nevada State Athletic Commission is reviewing this whole thing, whether or not Khabib will get suspended. He may not get his visa. He may get stripped of his title. Heck, he may not fight in a year or two. He may not be able to fight in the country. So there's so many question marks. So no matter how we want it or look at it, they may not even be able to have a rematch, even if they wanted to and agreed upon it, because now that opens the door. Does Conor fight Tony? Does he fight Nate? There's so many opportunities at hand.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
I have a question, though.
Okay, sure.
Because it's kind of back on what you were saying. I had a real deep conversation with Pops, and because he's been watching UFC since day one, and so have I. And he was like, it used to be about class and respect. And he was like, now it's about, how many pay-per-view numbers did you sell? And he understands it's a growing business, and it's always going to be about numbers. How much money do you make? But at what point you have to have morals? Like, you have to have fundamentals. And that's Conor. That's who Conor is. They say he does it in his own gym. He's a trash talker. It's what he does. Muhammad Ali trash talk. But like you said, there gets to a point where you do have to cut it back a bit. You do. They had 2 meetings that night, Dana White said, about security. They had the most security they've ever had in an event. So They couldn't have prepared more.
Yep.
But the pre-fight you could have. Because it's getting to the point, and I actually agreed with them, and I'm a Conor guy. It's getting too much now, and I think he does almost have too much power. It's one thing to have his proper 12 in the octagon. I get it. He makes a lot of money. But you're right. You have to be respectful in the event you're taking a part of.
Yes.
Be on time.
Yes.
Dana, you can control that. Hey, if you're not on time, okay, you get some of your money taken away.
Yeah.
And there has to be that,
and
because
Conor cares about money.
You give him an inch, he's going to take more. And it's like you can't blame him for doing it because Dana hasn't stopped him yet. And that's Dana's role, is to stop him. So he's like, Conor's just going to be Conor. I'm not going to tell him how to trash talk. Well, then you're going to keep getting these reactions out of people if you talk about anyone's religion. If I talked about your religion, anyone would have that type of reaction. It's not something you really control. Like you said, someone attacks your buddy, you're going to defend him. If somebody talks about your family, you're going to defend your family. It's more than just a fight now. And if you remember, the old Conor didn't always do this. Like, he trash talk. But this obviously was on another level, this feud. He took it even further.
He did. He's taken it a little bit. That's what I mean. He's going too far. And a little bit of it is he almost feels like the fight is not even as big. Everything before the fight is bigger than the fight now. Back in the day, he talked trash. He was funny. He drank. He made fun of the other fighter. But in the octagon is what the first thing that I fell in love with Conor McGregor. His ability to Mystic Mac. He would say, hey, I'm going to knock him out in the first. Boom, the first. I think I'm going to get him in the second. Get him in the second. His knockout power for that weight class is amazing. That's what made me fall in love with him, was his fight style. Now it's all about the pre-show, and it's all about the press conferences, and it's about the money, and it's about the whole Floyd Money Mayweather thing.
Changed him.
Yeah, I really did. And Max, you grind. We're doing this. We're in. We're out. We're calling people. We do so much for the podcast. We're grinding. Our numbers are bigger than ever. If Fox Sports 1 gives you $10 million tomorrow, it's just the God's honest truth. You grind a little bit less. That's just the honest God's truth. You just can't grind 100%. As much as when we got $80 in the bank account. You know what I'm saying? When you get $10 million in the bank account, that changes a man.
Yeah, you could still have a chip on your shoulder, but if you give someone $100 million. He may not wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to train.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is this a good or bad look for the UFC? That's like my last moral question.
Okay.
Because this is what you get one side of it is, dude, you're getting more pay-per-view numbers than ever. More people are talking about it. But I am the other side, Dave. I'm kind of sick of the numbers at this point now. At some point, you have to have morals, and you can't have media members taking flying elbows, and you can't have staff and trainers and people. I think it's a bad look for the UFC.
That's your side?
Yeah.
My side, Cuzzo, the exact opposite. This is maybe one of the best nights in UFC history.
Get out because of the amount of attention it's getting.
Yes. On Tuesday, Wednesday, every show is still talking about it. For one, this has taken the whole night. Derrick Lewis is now a heavyweight championship contender. One of the best interviews afterwards. He talked about his balls being hot. Literally took his shorts off. Yeah, we'll get into that. Tony Ferguson and Showtime Pettis, unbelievable fight. Tony was awesome. Everything of the night, all the fighters, because it had the most eyes ever on its show. Then the main event happened. For one, you always need a bad guy. Rocky IV is the best because Drago is the best bad guy of the whole Rocky series. So now Khabib is officially the biggest bad guy in the history of the UFC.
Is he or is Conor?
Oh, no.
Because I've seen both. It's like I've seen people like, what do you expect? The guy's saying mean stuff. I understand Khabib.
No,
you may have two villains for the first time.
I thought that a little bit. For one, villains do sell. Everyone loves the Joker Heath Ledger movie, right?
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that. Conor, to me, I thought it was crazy. The media loved Conor. Almost all when Conor came out, it was the biggest pop in UFC history. When Khabib came out, it was boos. But that's in Las Vegas. That's a neutral site for them. It's not in Russia or in Dublin, Ireland. Say that 9 times fast. Don't do it.
No, I'm not going to say it, but I have a counter argument.
And then just real quick, afterwards, it was a mayhem. People are still talking about it. There's posters. There's Fly Eagle T-shirts making with Khabib. So much. It's huge. People are still talking about it. We're having a 229 reaction show. We didn't have a 228 reaction show.
Well, Conor wasn't a part of 228. We would have had a reaction show regardless. So this is my whole point.
Okay.
My rebuttal to that is not all publicity is good publicity, because I've heard that it is. It's not. LeVar Ball can get publicity. Not everything he says is good, and it's not a good look on him, his family, in my opinion, and his brand. Just because you say something and gets 1 million retweets doesn't mean what you said is right, and it's not good. It's not a good look. You can go slap someone, it goes viral. Doesn't mean it's good because it got numbers, because what you did was morally wrong. And for all the new viewers looking at the UFC, their perspective now is this sport is out of control. And whether they like it or not, you're getting viewers, yes, but at some point what you're doing has to matter. Just because you get views doesn't necessarily mean it's always good. And I guarantee you, if they would have had this beef, Khabib beat him the same way that he did. On the mic, they go at it, they get in a little bit of a shoving match. We'd still be talking about the match. You'd still get just as many views that tuned in, but it would be in a better look, because having that, the sport is getting out of control. Like, we're talking about Conor needs to Conor it down, and they probably won't. All honesty, Dana White's already said it. I'm not going to tell him how to trash talk.
No, I get that, but I just disagree. I really do. 229 was a circus. And it's an event. It's there's memes, there's videos, there's everything. People, when this rematch happens, so that's kind of giving away something that we'll talk about in the near future. When this rematch happens, everyone that watched 229, guarantee you, will watch 238. Yeah. Right? We'll watch the next match. And we thought we had 26 people over the house. I guarantee you there'll be more people for this one. Like, everyone will come after the woodwork. Like, you remember that whole crazy show? Like we always say, like, if we just yell outside, we go outside right now the studio and we yell, fight, fight, fight. People just start running. And that so it was a fight in the octagon and a fight out of the octagon. It was like, I'm still like just thinking it, watching in my head when the fight was over. When he beat Eddie Alvarez, and I'm the biggest Conor fan, I'm the biggest Madison Square Garden fan, New York guy. God, I was in heaven. It was awesome. But honestly, I'm just going to be honest. A day or two later, it flew off me. It kind of flowed away a little bit, and I started thinking about the next football game. I'm still thinking about what happened outside that octagon.
The reason why this bothers me so much, though, is I agree with you. The views, I completely understand. And I agree with you. It gets people tuning in. But this is such a young sport, and it's so heavily influenced on their stars. So that's what scares me the most. If this was the NBA, you'd be like, wow, this is actually like crazy. We're talking about it. It wouldn't bother me as much because it's a well-established organization. And, you know, it's well-established. It has history. It won't happen again. But you have a star who knows how much bigger he can get? Like, who knows? Because this, like you just said, the rematch is going to be even bigger now if it happens.
Yeah.
So you're taking this guy, and if not punishing him or punishing the thought of what happened, the premise of it, what's going to stop it from happening again? And I just think it may go into a direction because, like I said, it's so heavily influenced on its stars and it's such a young sport. I don't want it to head in that direction. So I think that's why I'm more opposed to it like I would be normally.
Okay. Wow. Guys, this conversation's going great. I was going to break it down to 3 different parts, but all of it is they intertwine with each other.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw out 3 things to you. You talk about it, then I'll take it away.
Of course.
All right.
Let me stretch.
Good stretch. Okay. What is next for Khabib? What is next for Conor McGregor?
Okay.
And then, of course, what Khabib has and what Conor wants. What is next for the lightweight title?
Okay, I can answer it all in one question. If Khabib does not get suspended the way he probably will. If he doesn't, in a perfect world, they're like, you know what, we're just going to give you don't have a bad history. We'll give you a bone. So I think they have an immediate rematch. Like you said, it's going to be even bigger than the first fight. More people, more draws. You have the story. It's a feud. There'll be a rematch for the title right away. Because it doesn't make sense. Tony Ferguson's on 11-fight win streak, never lost his title.
I know.
But Conor McGregor gets his way, and he's a bigger draw.
Okay, real quick. You said immediate. So this is October 10th, 9th. The fight was on October 7th. Give me a month, give me a rough estimate when you think that fight, the rematch, will happen.
In a perfect world, like if Khabib's not suspended.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think he is going to get suspended? What's your take? I don't care about anyone else. I care about you.
If not in a perfect world, if I had to bet my money, Khabib gets suspended. And you're going to have Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson for the interim title bout. That's if I had to bet money on it. And then when Khabib returns, he fights Conor again. In a perfect world, they would fight immediately. But I think what he did, the Nevada State Athletic Commission is not Dana White. They're a lot more strict. And they will go right at you. You see what they did to Conor. I think they suspend Khabib and they fine him almost pretty much his whole $2 million he was going to make or the paycheck that he had. They may fine him that much and suspend him. So I think you're going to look at Ferguson and Conor for the interim title belt. And then we know what Conor wants. He wants the rematch.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot.
That may be my locked in for the show.
I'm going to take that in. This is what I think about all 3. Habib doesn't get suspended. I think he gets a fine, and I think they, hey, wash some cars in Vegas. Don't do it again. He doesn't get suspended.
I hope so.
That's what I think. I think Conor, the rematch happens, and I'm thinking around February or March.
I could see that early next year.
Yeah, like a spring, around the Super Bowl, maybe in that range.
Near my birthday? Have it on February 3rd. If you're listening, Dana White.
Yeah, Dana White. Of course he damn listens. Come on. So I think that's what I really do think. I think Tony doesn't fight. I think he wanted to be on the card. This is called a spade. If Khabib or Conor didn't make weight or got hurt, he was going to jump into the championship match.
Exactly.
And, and I thought it was a great fight for him. I think he wanted to test out the knee. He got beat up a little bit more than I think people thought. It was a great fight. So I think Tony needs to honestly take time off. Rest up the knee, get the knee better, get your body right. He doesn't fight before that. Same kind of thing. I think he's in the back burner of that because if something happens with Khabib or Conor, that who knows, press conferences, if they get into a fight before the goddamn octagon even opens, who knows? But then the winner of that match, there's no trilogy yet. They kind of put the trilogy on the back burner, like the Diaz-Conor back burner, and Tony does finally fight the winner of that match. July 4th, International Fight Weekend, Las Vegas, Nevada.
I hope you're right, but what's interesting, too, though, is you have to remember you have Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier because Dustin Poirier is on a win streak of his own. Even though I think Nate Diaz would win, him and Conor would sell more than him and Tony, and it'd be a trilogy fight.
Yeah.
So there's so many elements in the lightweight division, it's not even funny.
It's crazy. That's what, for one, they need the 165 title. They need that for sure. And then because Tony could go up and fight for that if he wanted to. It's just crazy. It's just to think about it.
I'm sorry.
No, take it away.
Okay. we have Derrick Lewis and Daniel Cormier. May I put a bow on the Conor thing and just say something?
No, I got a couple more Conor
All right,
things.
go ahead.
I got a couple more.
I have to defend Stipe. Go ahead.
No. I'm actually 100% with you on that. Okay, that's great. Hey, let's call a spade. Everyone here knows that if you listen to the Locked In podcast, you can download it on all podcast platforms. Hey, follow us on Facebook too. Locked In Sports Podcast. Instagram, it's like locked_INN. Do all that, all right? Everyone knows Max Van Auken.
Sir, yes, sir.
Loves, I think, the phrase, the GOAT.
I love the GOAT.
I think you do. I think that's like your number one sports phrase that you love. And I think you think Conor is a GOAT possibility in the MMA. You think LeBron James is the GOAT. You think Tom Brady is the GOAT. So, and this is always things we talk about here on the Locked In Sports Podcast. Is the Conor McGregor GOAT talk over? Is it officially done?
It's never over. No, it's not.
Okay.
If he were to retire today, it is. If he were to fight again, beat Khabib, it's not. Because he has the resume, like you just said. People put Jose Aldo in the GOAT discussion. He knocked him out in 13 seconds after being unbeaten for 10 years. He's been the first two-weight world champion simultaneously at the same time. This stuff adds up at the people he's beaten. He's beaten Nate Diaz, like you said, Dustin Poirier. If he were to have the biggest
Holloway, he's beat.
If he were to have the biggest rematch of all time and beat the 27-0 Khabib, that has to go on his resume and open the discussions back up again. But like I said, what you said makes so much sense. You give someone $100 million, it's kind of different. If he never kind of goes back to the old Conor McGregor form, or he may never fight again, then yeah, it's put to rest. But if he competes again and wins, it's not put to rest.
Yeah, I agree. If he beats this, I got 3 in a row, just 3 fights in a row. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, for one, he's won on multiple 3-fight win streaks, and these 3 fights make sense. Guys, if he comes back, the biggest rematch ever beat Khabib. He's the champ. Then he finally faces the Diaz, the trilogy, the match everyone wants to see. It's on the back burner. They got it in their back pocket. Boom, they bring that out. He beats Diaz. And then, of course, they will call it the GOAT fight. GSP 2019, 2020, GSP versus Conor McGregor, Madison Square Garden. They fight, and if he beats GSP, guys, he's the greatest of all time.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Right now, he's not. Right after that loss, I don't want to throw this out here because we'll go on days for it. He's borderline, maybe not top 10 now. That's a big loss to him.
He's top 10.
Okay. But he needs multiple wins to get back in that conversation. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. That's that one. My last Conor McGregor, we'll put a bow with it. It's the greatest fight. I can go for hours. I'm telling you if you want. We talked about Conor and the GOAT. Can this fight, this win, the undefeated, undisputed Terminator, Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov, can he be elevated into the GOAT talk?
Not yet, but he can. Again, he's another if. What happens with the suspension? What happens with the strip title?
Sure.
In a perfect world, he comes back and he beats Conor McGregor again, and he just goes unbeaten, then certainly. But he has to do more than just what he's done now, because that's his first title defense. You have people like Demetrius Johnson, who's defended it 11 times. You have people like Conor and GSP, who's won 2 belts, and like Randy Couture. So he still has a lot to do, but it's possible.
Okay. Hey, I just gave you the Conor 3 fights. If Khabib beats Conor McGregor in the rematch, beats him, they finally had Tony Ferguson in this fight that they tried 9 times to get. He beats him. And then he gets some kind of super mega fight. Tyron Woodley. Even a GSP, something like that. And if he beats him, 3 fights. I gave you Conor 3-fight GOAT talk. Can Khabib be a 3-fight win streak away from being the greatest of all time?
If those are the matches, then yes.
Okay.
But it's funny. I said there's 2 people who I guarantee could beat Khabib. I said George St. Pierre, because his wrestling, even at this age, he would have the size advantage. He'd be fighting for legacy, so he's motivated. His wrestling is second to none. Maybe to Khabib, but people forget how dynamic of a wrestler he is. He went up to middleweight and took down Michael Bisping, who has great takedown defense, by the way, and he took him down. He could take down anybody, and his defense, he's more athletic than Khabib. I don't think Khabib could take him down, and his striking is better than Khabib's, and he's smarter. Tyron Woodley's another one. May not be a better fighter than Khabib, but he's a bad matchup because he's a stronger, athletic person who has great wrestling with one-punch knockout power. So I don't think he beats those people, but in your world, if he does, then yeah.
All right, the bow has been put on. Merry Christmas, guys. UFC 229 was one of the greatest events in UFC history. Before we get into UFC 230, let's just talk about Pep-Boys.
Pep-Boys.
Daytona Beach International Speedway, right across from the racetrack. See our main man, Richie. He will hook you up. Like cheap oil changes, tire alignments. If you have air conditioning problems, get that fixed. Yeah, just go in there, say that the Locked In podcast sent
you.
God bless America.
There we go.
UFC 230, my man. What'd you think?
I don't even want to talk about the fight. What happened to Stipe? Is he not even in this conversation anymore? So
You're talking about, it just got announced, Derrick Lewis, the highlight of UFC 229, the upset comeback win in round 3, knocked him out, Vulcan. He takes off his pants. He talks about smoking weed with Joe Rogan, says his balls is hot, and automatically gets the title match against DC, the heavyweight champion of the world.
I can recap this whole thing and tell you exactly why it happened and why it shouldn't have happened and the whole thing. Whole 9 yards, I guarantee it. We were watching this fight. The first round was a flurry. He was fighting probably like a young up-and-comer, not some Cain Velasquez. Let's not get it twisted. Pete and I were sitting right next to each other. Pete White, the legend himself. We couldn't even watch the second round, and we were struggling to watch the third round until that knockout. It was not an impressive performance until that very last knockout, 10 seconds left of the round.
Agreed.
His interview was better than the fight. And I love him. He's a great guy. But a couple things. This is clearly a fight for Daniel Cormier to beat this guy to set up a super fight with Brock because he's still in the process of changing from the WWE to the UFC, or John Jones, who's still under the way with all the law, regulations, and all that stuff. So that's clearly what it is, for one. For two, what's even more upsetting, Stipe Miocic, the most decorated heavyweight of all time with the most title defenses, in a super fight with Daniel Cormier, which you could argue he was winning until he got caught, doesn't deserve a rematch over Derrick Lewis? Am I reading this right? Is this a joke?
It's not a joke.
I'm highly upset, Dave.
No.
And I had no coffee today. Not a good mix.
Get
out of the way.
Holy shit, everyone leave! Quick, get out of here! This is all about paychecks. It's all about pay-per-view buy rates, and it's all about... I want to disagree with you, and we disagreed a little bit with the Conor Khabib stuff. It's all about getting DC to Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I totally agree. For one, there was mayhem. For one, the main event of 230 should have been Dustin versus Diaz. There's been plenty of main events not for a title. There's been tons.
Dana White said there's really not, but there has been.
Oh, been tons. They changed the rule because there were so many main events that wasn't for the title, that wasn't 5 rounds, and now if you're a main event of the show, you make it 5 rounds. For one, Conor main event like 5 shows in a row, not for a title.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's been tons.
You're wrong, Dana.
That should have been the main event. You have a great co-main event with Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold. Those are 2 legitimate fights. It's in New York. It kind of sells itself a little bit.
That's such a great fight.
They're forcing a main event. So then they put the Bullet versus Eubanks and a horrible main event for the female title that's vacant the flyweight. That was such a bad main event because it wasn't better than those 2 fights I just announced. So finally they said, we need something. People are upset. And we need it. And DC, I heard he told Dana he would step up, but he wanted Bones or Lesnar. He's like, I know it's not a lot of time to push it and sell it out, but
Lewis just fought.
Yeah, what I'm saying is DC wanted that.
Yeah.
But I think they want a 3-month presser for Lesnar or Bones,
of course,
or all that stuff. And then, like you said, neither guy is ready. That's just the bottom line. Neither guy is ready. And I'm just going to call him out. If they give Stipe their rematch, I think Stipe wins that fight, and then everything gets pushed.
Exactly.
It's in a mayhem. It's another circus.
At least a better chance.
They want DC versus Lesnar. They want DC versus Bones. That's the next 2 fights they probably want. Those are the big money fights now, especially if Conor, your boy, just got knocked out. Tapped. I'm like, this is just crazy. It's a joke. I really do think it's a joke.
See, this is the direction it's heading in. That's why I'm more strict on that. It's more for pay-per-view buys. That's why I'm saying, if it was anyone else, if it was even another fighter, I wouldn't have this type of reaction. But Conor allowing these stars to be like this just for the numbers is not the right direction. It's not, because it may work. I feel like it's like putting a Band-Aid on a temporary situation, because You may get pay-per-view buys now, but if you head in this direction, I feel like it will come back to haunt them.
Oh, I agree. They need some kind of, like what I threw out 4 months ago. They need some kind of season or a playoff. Like, I love what Bellator's doing with the Grand Prix, with the weight classes, with the tournament. I can't wait till our man John Fitch faces Rory McDonald, and then the title keeps on going through the bracket. That's such a great idea. UFC, it's like, oh, there's a big money fight with Lesnar, so we're just going to, like, pencil people in to get to that fight. Like, it's not real sport anymore in a way.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like this direction, and PFL does it, the tournament thing. And they do it with points, and Kevin Hart invested in it. You have Alex Nicholson, obviously, who competed in it.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some changes soon, and it may not because they want to, but because the fans are telling them to. Like you just said, people didn't like the main event. They changed it. If there's a lot of complaints, and Razor Blades is highly upset about what happened, Curtis Blades. So, and I would be too. He's another contender who probably deserves it more than Lewis. No disrespect, but...
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's almost about just Derrick Lewis. He had the press conference. He had, all that great stuff to Rogan and everything. So just a crazy, crazy change of events. It's nuts.
Another great episode, Dave.
It was.
If you guys don't like this on the podcast, all podcast platforms locked in with 2 N's, there's no reason for you to not do it. Download, subscribe, disagree with us, like us, whatever you want to do. We want to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. The Locked In community has been awesome through Facebook. People are on there all the time. It's been awesome. People are into it right away with so much Conor talk, and they said they couldn't wait for you and I to sit down and to talk about it. So it's what we did.
And like always,
stay
locked in.
Wanna do us, screw us, who us? Yeah, Papa and Pump. Close like Starsky and Hutch, stick to club.